And you're very welcome. This is The Beautiful Truth with Fintan Dunn reporting on the 27th of November 2020. And I've got someone you're just going to want to listen to. This is a judge of the United States Supreme Court, Samuel Alito. And I'm going to bring you some stuff he said a week after the election that will gladden your heart. And that's coming right up. But we're also going to check out what kind of week it's been for Trump. You probably saw him on the TV, did you? Yeah, I saw that too. Let's just check out what kind of a week Trump had. It was a terrific performance, I thought. We'll get some live video for you as the... Oh, you thought I meant Donald Trump. No. Judd Trump I'm talking about, of course. The world number one, just like Donald. And, there isn't just enough Trumps around, as far as I'm concerned. You need more than one. And Judd Trump is the world number one in snooker. And he had a terrific game against Paul Davidson, where he powered right through to reach the second round of the UK Championship Snooker just in the last 48 hours. Folks, take a look at how he dealt with these individual states and their electoral votes. And we join the live action now as Trump prepares to take on Georgia. Very tricky little one, Georgia now. You just have to gently tease it into the bag. And that's been trickled very nicely in there. Trump on absolutely perfect form. And he's lining up Nevada here now. That's Nevada tucked away as well. This is looking very good for Trump, 92-0. And Biden isn't even getting out of his chair.
The red near that right-hand side cushion into play here. He may try to.
Arizona safely tucked away there as well. A stunning performance by Trump. He's clearly on top form here. Now, as he takes Wisconsin here, if he can get Michigan... Oh, that was so close. He almost got Michigan off the cushion there. What's he going to do now?
It's going to have to be a double to keep this century bid on track. Ah, lovely stuff.
Beautifully tucked away.
Judd Trump is indeed going to finish with a ton.
Pennsylvania.
To cap a comfortable evening for the world number one.
An absolutely terrific performance. But, the game wasn't without incident. As you see here, we had, there's no score on the screen. The electronic scoreboard went down in the course of the game. Check it out. Of course, as you know, and as any Trump should know, you can't rely on those electronic scoreboards to keep count of who's winning.
Scores 16 points to 40. Scores 16 points to 40.
Well, Ben Williams is telling them the score, so it's obviously not actually on the scoreboard. It's 40 to Trump, 16 to Davison. That's the score. Hopefully we'll be able to restore it to our screen, but that's linked to the arena scoreboard. So until that's working properly, we can't have it for you on the screen. But there we are. Look at that. They've got the old. They have got the old snooker club scoreboard. Well, that sort of sums up 2020, doesn't it? In a nutshell.
I think it does sum up 2020 in a nutshell. All right. You just can't rely on those electronic scoreboards. You never know what they're going to do next, and you're better off with your old paper scoreboard or paper ballot, whatever. Electronic? Nah, not the way to go. But let's turn from the ridiculous back to the sublime. And wasn't it sublime as these legal suits start to hit the courts? And Sidney Powell's suit on Wednesday, late Wednesday, making detailed allegations in a bid to invalidate the Georgia election results. And we saw this stuff, and there's a definitive case indeed has emerged now. I'll get to that in a moment too. All breaking stuff. But just looking at some of the details of these exhibits which are being brought forward, you have here, and this is from Panda Tribune on Twitter, evidence of massive election fraud. A few of over 100 Michigan exhibits from Sidney Powell's legal filing. They are damning, serious and credible. the thread below gets more shocking with every exhibit. I'll give you links to that in the text that goes with the video. But we just take a look at some of these, and these go into great detail. These are by people who, for example, Dr. Eric Quinnell received a Bachelor of Science in Engineering and is a Master of Science in Circuit Design and a Doctor of Computer Arithmetic, and is talking about details on the stats and the background to this stuff, like we told you would happen, that the techies and the nerds would be unleashed and they would show that this was stolen. So we have now all of these affidavits. You see each one of these, and many of them are in great detail, and they go through the abnormalities. Here's a terrific one from an affiant, Russell James Ramsland Jr., who's an MBA from Harvard, political science degree from Duke, worked at NASA and MIT, and also worked in the Allied Security Operations Group, which is ASOG, which is Department of Defense, Secret Service, Homeland Security, CIA. And that's a terrific report with details of the statistical abnormalities in Michigan, where precincts showed extremely high turnout. I'm not going to go into the detail on this. You can drill into it if you're nerdy enough to do so, but I will stop at this one, which is Exhibit 15, an electronic intelligence asset analyst under 350 military intelligence with experience gathering SAM missile systems electronic intelligence. I have experience as a white hat hacker used by some of the top election specialists in the world. Wow. And this affiant presents unambiguous evidence that Dominion voter systems and Edison research have been accessible and were certainly compromised by rogue actors such as Iran and China. And that is a dynamite report, and that is what is going to enable Donald Trump to unleash his executive order. If you're not aware of the executive order, it was memory September 2018, I think. Trump signed the executive order, which enabled him to take certain actions if we found ourselves in a situation where a US election had been compromised by foreign actors. Exactly the kind of stuff they were complaining about with Russiagate, eh? But Trump signed that executive order, and it enables him to seize assets and do very, very nasty things to people and countries who interfere in US elections. And this report from this military intelligence analyst is the hot stuff, providing all of the links to Serbia, to Iran, to China, and very interestingly, on page 8 of this, a search of the indivisible.org network showed a subdomain which evidences the existence of scorecard software in use as part of the Indivisible political group for Obama. Indivisible is formerly Acorn, a corny name of active communities organized for whatever, yeah. But Acorn equals Indivisible equals Obama equals scorecard. As I say, dynamite stuff there. And these, there's so many of them. They detail intelligence, electronic, manual, fraud. They do statistics, mathematical analysis. It's absolutely dynamite stuff. And it is, of course, all topped up by just published. And you'll find it on the major sites such as Just the News and the Gateway Pundit and Revolver.news. I'm sure you'll find links to this quantitative analysis of decisive vote updates in Michigan, Wisconsin and Georgia on and after election night. Now, I'll just I'll give you the short version of that. That should really be titled, Dear Joe Biden, You're Screwed, and Here's How. Because this is the hardcore analysis showing those spikes which lifted Biden's vote up sufficiently to overtake Trump in not one, but many different states. And moving on from that with a lot of complicated log and functions and minus log over. Oh, it's lovely stuff. It's all mathematics. I haven't a clue. But I know that this is a science. And when we deploy this science, we begin to see graphs and charts, and they show us the outliers. You see that little dot up there in the top right-hand corner? Yeah, That's Joe Biden going down. So this is the data. This is the statistical analysis on different states, Wisconsin, Georgia, showing the same patterns, Pennsylvania, Minnesota, and then combining them all together to show these mathematical patterns which are going to enable Rudy Giuliani to speak to the Supreme Court about the comprehensive, mass organized RICO criminal fraud which was conducted in this election. And that's not going to just result in merely recounts or re-examinations. That's going to result in the seizure of and the criminal investigation of all of these matters. Why? Because what I just showed you. We've got the evidence. We've got, as I say, the receipts. And that thread, I invite you to check that out. But now, given all that, the next obvious question is, so what's going to happen when this is put before the Supreme Court, and what's the Supreme Court going to do about it? Well, you already know that we had some assignments by the Chief Justice, which placed judges like Amy Coney Barrett and other Republican judges in key swing states. An early indication, perhaps, of what the Supreme Court might do. An indication they might be favourably inclined to support Donald Trump. Well, I've got some better evidence than that. I've got the words of the Justice of the Supreme Court, Samuel Alito, and he spoke a week after the election to the Federalist Society. And it's very interesting what he said to them, because he was talking about the issue of bullying the Supreme Court. He was talking about how 5 senators had said that they were prepared to restructure the court if it didn't start playing ball. And of course, that came up, as you know, in the election, when Joe Biden was asked many times about whether the Democrats would stack the Supreme Court, which of course would essentially destroy it, because it would become then forever a political football, if it isn't already. But you know what I mean. It would be the end of it as an institution. And the question then is, what do people like Samuel Alito, who are in a position, as are other judges of the Supreme Court, in a position to make decisive judgments in relation to this? Are they going to decide to back Joe Biden if, in fact, Biden's first move is to put effect to the threat of those senators to actually do a job on the Supreme Court? Let's hear from Samuel Alito himself and what he thinks of this whole challenge to the Supreme Court. Now, he's not going to say it directly. He's going to tell you a little story in a couple of minutes, a story that'll help educate you about what he's going to do about all this.
5 United States senators who filed a brief in support of the city went further. They wrote that the Supreme Court is a sick institution, and that if the court did not mend its ways, well, it might have to be, quote, restructured. Now, let me be clear again. I'm not suggesting that the court's decision was influenced by the senator's threat, but I am concerned that the outcome might be viewed that way by the senators and others with thoughts of bullying the court. This little episode, I'm afraid, may provide a foretaste of what the Supreme Court will face in the future. And let's go back to some basics. The Supreme Court was created by the Constitution, not by Congress. Under the Constitution, we exercise the judicial power of the United States. Congress has no right to interfere with that work any more than we have the right to legislate. Our obligation is to decide cases based on the law, period. And it is therefore wrong for anybody, including members of Congress, to try to influence our decisions by anything other than legal argumentation. That sort of thing has often happened in countries governed by power, not law. A Supreme Court justice from one such place recounted what happened when his court was considering a case that was very important to those in power. He looked out the window and saw a tank pull up and point its gun toward the court. The message was clear. Decide the right way, or the courthouse might be, shall we say, restructured. That was a crude threat, but all threats and inducements are intolerable. Judges dedicated to the rule of law have a clear duty. They cannot compromise principle or rationalize any departure from what they are obligated to do. And I am confident that the Supreme Court will not do that in the years ahead.
There you go. Now, he's effectively saying there that when you threaten the Supreme Court that you're going to restructure us, then you might as well be pulling up outside with a tank and pointing the turret at us in order to instruct us to do the right thing. And we're not going to have that kind of thing. We're not going to put up with that. That's what you get in countries which are just ruled by power, not by law. And he's in the business, and so are the other judges, I think, of ruling by law. I think it's far from coincidental that the judge made those comments on the 10th of November, just a week after the election, in full knowledge of what was likely to come down the line. Because everybody has known that this is what's going to come down the line. And so the judges of the Supreme Court are well up to speed. And I think you can take Alito at his word. Not to put too fine a point on it, I think they're going to chew him up. The Supreme Court are. They're going to chew them up when they get an opportunity to do so. Because this criminality is in your face and it's all provable. So, bearing in mind, I do appreciate that the disappointment of not winning the election outright straight away has sort of puts a bit of a damper on things, and it has. But obviously everyone's very encouraged with where we're going and where we're headed. But we need to make sure we don't lose sight of the fact that this indeed has been a phenomenal victory at every level. And all we need to do now is to close on the presidential aspect of that victory. But in terms of the sheer numbers of support for Trump and the failure of Biden and the Democrats to mobilize enough supporters, has effectively, I think, will in the end give the game even more to Trump. That this is going to work out in our favor. So if you're going to steal an election, just don't leave this much evidence. And unfortunately, that's what they've done. Enough evidence to make it very difficult to ignore and enough evidence to hang a lot of people. And the other thing that's great, of course, is that, we have broken away from that mainstream media control fully, I think, with a huge exodus out of Fox News and off Twitter and onto alternative platforms, etc., that the ability of these people to control the narrative is rapidly diminishing. And I'd like to celebrate that with just a couple of minutes out of this clip that's going around. If you haven't seen it, you sure will soon. And it's Tucker Carlson in an outtake of an interview where he gets challenged by somebody who, this wasn't aired, of course, by somebody who's saying the kind of things that you don't usually get to say to the likes of Tucker Carlson on air. Have a listen.
The past couple of years.
And I'm taking orders from the Murdochs. Is that what you're saying?
No, I mean, it doesn't work that directly. But I mean, you've been part of the Cato Institute, right? You've been a senior fellow there for years. You've been taking their dirty money. They're funded by cock billionaires,
Wait, why don't you tell me how it does work?
Well, it works by you taking their dirty money. It's as easy as that. I mean, you are a millionaire funded by billionaires. That's what you are. And I'm glad you now finally jumped the bandwagon, of people like Bernie Sanders and AOC. But you're not part of the solution, Mr. Carlson. You're part of the problem, actually.
AOC, but can I just say,
It's true, right? It's true, right? That all the anchors on Fox, they're all millionaires. How is this possible? Well, it's very easy. You're just not talking about certain things.
Fox doesn't even play where you are.
It doesn't play where you are. Well, have you heard of the internet? I can watch things whatever I want, I have, actually. I I can't say I'm a great fan of your show, but I do my homework when you invite me on your show. So, I mean, you're probably not going to air this, but I went to Davos to speak truth to power, and I'm doing exactly the same thing right now. You might not like it, but you're a millionaire funded by billionaires, and that's the reason why you're not talking about these issues.
But I am talking about these issues.
Yeah, only now. Come on, you jumped the bandwagon. You're all like, oh, I'm against the globalist elite, blah, blah, blah. It's not very convincing, to be honest.
Why don't you go yourself, you tiny brain, and I hope this gets picked up, because you're a moron. I tried to give you a hearing, but you were too annoying for me.
You can't handle the criticism, can you?
There's a war.
It's just too good. Do you want another one? You like that one? Do you want another one? How about we watch somebody from CNN make a complete ass of themselves? Here, hold on. Actually, it's even better than I thought. It's a double act. Laurel and Hardy have nothing on these guys. Don Lemon, Reid Zakaria. And let's just have a listen to Don make a fool of himself first.
What this president is doing to subvert this election is unprecedented, and unprecedented, if that's a word.
It's unprecedented. Unprecedented is the word, Don, that you're looking for. But now we'll just have a listen to Fareed Zakaria describe how inept the Democratic vote-stealing operation has been. And this rivals Joe Biden and his admission that they have the greatest vote fraud organization in history. This is Fareed Zakaria. He thinks he's talking about Donald Trump, but of course, listen carefully and you realize he's actually talking about the Democrats and what they just did and how badly they did it.
Would you call this a coup? An attempt at a coup?
Oh, there's no question it's an attempt at a coup. It's as with everything Donald Trump does, the intention is as malign as one thinks. The execution is as incompetent as you can imagine. And so it is likely to fail because it is not particularly well thought through. But there's no question he is trying to, you put it exactly right. He's trying to execute a coup. And
yeah, Fareed, you're absolutely right. It's going to fail because it's just done so incompetently, done so badly. Well, it's not really. It wasn't that it was incompetent. What it was that Donald Trump rose like Lazarus out of the grave and went out and barnstormed and convinced people and got 15, 17 million extra people to come out for him. That's what he did. That's what happened. That's what overwhelmed him. The sheer determination of Trump to not just win, but to bring the people out. And he has done so. And now, after this period of quiet, while all of the evidence has been assembled, as I told you a few days ago, and we would have this sort of quiet period while everybody worked through what was about to happen and got the evidence ready, he's about to go out and barnstorm. He's about to go out and rabble-rouse. He's about to go fully on the offensive on all of this because we now have got the receipts on everything. And it's time. Time for this to reach a resolution. And I'll be back with more on that and election developments over the course of the days ahead. I hope you'll join me for that. But in the meantime, for breakfornews.com, this has been Fintan Dunn reporting.